We're sitting at 4-1, so whoever picks up the loss here out of top 8 contention, the other one will be moving right along. And Shiels played in the Pro Tour last weekend. He played the Obzon aggro deck that Mike Sigrist, his teammate, made the top 4 with. That's why he wasn't playing it this week, and he said, I played it for 2 weeks, I'm sick of it. I'm like, that makes sense.
Kind of makes it up a little bit.
Yeah, so he's playing Jeskai aggro. And he's playing it pretty well thus far, sitting here at 4-1. Going to start with a Temple of Triumph, top card to the bottom. We're underway here in round number 6.
Do you know what David's result was at the Pro Tour?
He won a match.
Well, that would be another reason to put it down.
I don't know if it wasn't constructed either. I just know that he won a match. Not his best weekend. Temple of Epiphany. Land number 2 for Shiels. He's going to leave that on top. You saw Boettcher lead off with the Temple of Malice. Hero's down for the draw here for Jared. See what Jared has anything to do on turn number 2. Just going to be a Temple of Abandon. Take a look at the top card. See where this is going to go. It's going to stay on top. Over to Shiels we go. So we'll see if Shiels has one of the powerful 3-drop creatures here in this deck, be it Mantis Rider or Goblin Rabble Master. 3 mana right away. There is the Rabble Master. It is time for a Goblin token and an attack for 1.
And if you want to know why Rabble Master is really powerful, in part, look at the starts these two players had. Just 4 comes into play tap lands. No plays to the board.
Now, last match, Shiels requested not to use my token and to use the Eric Smith token. It looks like our table judge is setting him straight now. No more. It's time.
It's really petty of you to use your powers.
I said nothing. Whoa, I said nothing. I did not cause any of this.
Yeah, okay, man.
Okay, I didn't do any of that.
We definitely believe you.
Hero's Downfall did take down the Rabble Master. He also came up to me and made fun of me about it, too. So maybe I had to use my powers.
Sure.
Here's a Temple of Abandon. Top card's going to go to the bottom.
It's not petty at all.
There's an attack for 1. Boettcher's down to 18. Shiels got a healthy amount of burn spells. Lightning Strike, Magma Jet. He also has a Sarkin in his hand as well. Just kind of humming along here. Boettcher draws a copy of Thoughtseize.
This could be really powerful for David if Jared cooperates a little bit.
Okay.
But, you know, his hand's not very good if Jared says, just plays the Thoughtseize here and says go. You know, if Jared taps out for a threat this turn, this is excellent because he gets to charm into Sarkin. But requires a little bit of cooperation.
Hard to pass up casting a Thoughtseize on this board. You can see Jared's hand, actually. You know, he's got a Hero's Downfall, too. I think the problem is his colors. He has 2 black mana. There's a Mana Confluence in his hand, so he actually has 3.
It's a lot of damage to be taking, potentially, though.
Yeah, there's a Forest. Let's see what this is. He's tapping some mana right now. All right, Pelucanos, he wants to get a clock on the board.
And this is great for David. This is the exact sort of opening that he needs to sequence his stuff.
So is this what we call cooperating?
Well,
no Jeskai Charm.
Oh, no Jeskai Charm. Yep. Okay, if it's Lightning Strike plus Stoke, which is what he had, then this play is fine for Jared.
Shields going to draw a card here. Now there is the Jeskai Charm. So didn't have it before, but he has it now. And Dave's going to go deep in the tank, a place he's very familiar with.
Saw a lot of patience from David in his round 1 match against Rudy Briscoe earlier today. Yeah, he's got a lot of options here. And he's just, it's kind of simple, right? It's just like, well, I'm just staring down a Pelucanos. What's the big deal? Well, it's actually a really big deal. A lot of decisions to be made here. Part of the problem here is if he starts off the turn with just attacking with the token, it's probably a giveaway. I mean, it gives away that Charm or Stoke or Sarkin is in his hand as a follow-up. So is there a lineup play that allows him to do what he wants to do while concealing some of the information about his hand?
Well, this is the start, and Jared very quickly says that there's no chance I'm blocking. So we're into the second main phase now. Shields is going to play a Shivering Reef and just pass the turn back. So not going to deploy Sarkin, just going to leave the mana up for these burn spells. Jeskai Charm, you can use one of the modes on that as well. See how Boettcher wants to start things off as he's at 17. He's going to play Mana Confluence. And this is a pretty good place to start. It's a copy of Thoughtseize. So taking 2 here kind of stinks, going down to 15, but the information that he's going to gain is going to be very valuable.
Yeah, David kind of wants to charm in response, but that's also not great to be doing here.
I actually think you have to leave the charm in your hand because your 2 best cards are probably Charm plus Sarkin.
Yeah.
And so if you cast the charm and put it on top, well, Jared's just going to go, okay, I will take the Sarkin now, and now you're left with some mediocrity. So here's the grip. You see the Battlefield Forge, the Sarkin, the Charm, the Stoke, and the Lightning Strike. Boettcher's got to choose from those.
But if he takes the Sarkin, he's also looking at 11 points of damage in David's hand, and Jared does not have a lot of pressure right now.
And Shiels can fire off those burn spells pretty easily, right? He can play the Stoke this turn and then Charm plus Strike next turn. And then if he peels a burn spell, that deals 4 damage. Or if Jared deals himself a little bit of damage with Mana Confluence, well, that's it.
He does have the option of trying to get on the aggressive here and saying, all right, take Jeskai Charm and fight your token.
Get you for 6.
Yeah.
Get to work that way. It's not an easy Thoughtseize.
No. You see David there moving the Mana Confluence over to the side, like, you're not tapping this game.
You might as well have one less land in play.
I feel like this is between Charm and Sarkin. Because Stoke is basically just a worse Charm in this hand.
He is going to take the Charm. Here's the attack. Looks like no Monstrosity activation. So just an attack for 5. Shields are going to go down to 15. Boettcher looking at a Hero's Downfall again in his hand. That'll clean up the Sarkin. But that means that Shields actually has to cast the Sarkin. He's going to Stoke you right now. Put you down to 11. So Shields will untap and draw. It's a copy of Temple of Triumph.
And if David curves into this Thoughtseize, it's pretty big trouble for him. Or sorry, into this Hero's Downfall, rather.
The big issue here is if he's trying to play around Hero's Downfall and he just doesn't cast the Sarkin, then what Boettcher can do pretty easily is just fight this Goblin token.
Correct.
Right now.
He has something left over with his mana.
Yeah. And taking a point of damage here is very risky.
Yeah, this looks like it's pretty free on the surface, but it is not. I mean, the Lightning Strike in hand puts Jared, if he takes the point damage down to 10, Lightning Strike is 7, and then another 3 plus a 4 does it. And he's willing to protect this 1 point.
He'll fight. Token's going to bite the dust. Bluegranos is now 6/6. After Shields, all you can really do is play that Temple. Leave that card on top, kick it back. So Shields was able to play around Hero's Downfall appropriately, but doesn't really accomplish a lot on that turn.
Yeah. Well, except that he may commit Jared to leaving up all of his mana again this turn and not advance his board. Which, the way this could play out is that David gets an extra draw step because Jared can't curve out as efficiently as he wants to.
All it takes is one extra one.
Yeah.
That's one more draw towards a Jeskai Charm that deals 4 or a Stoke that deals 4. I think that's what you have to be a little bit scared of if you're Jared. Got to close this game out as fast as I can while dealing myself the least amount of damage possible.
Yes. It is a tough tightrope to walk. And I think Jared's trying to see if there's any way for him to push this into lethal on his following turn.
And it revolves around the Goblin Rabblemaster that he has in his hand. And what kind of effect that card can have in the game. It looks like he's going to reach and cast it. Yep. This will put some pressure on Dave. Because Rabblemaster does open the window for this being a 2-turn game. And Shields says, I'm actually just going to kill that. So, in comes Bluegranos.
But even that's a huge win for Jared.
Yeah, I think so. That's the Lightning Strike. That's not going upstairs.
Yeah.
I do wonder what Shields kept on top of his deck. Aha. Okay. So we're going to play a little bit of a different game now. Before we thought maybe he was going to go for the burn you out strategy. No more. Maybe slow you down, work my way into a dig through time strategy.
Or, force you to commit mana on your own turn, advancing your board, and maybe Sarkin gets a hit in.
Yep. Shields looks like he wants to play the battlefield for it. He will pass a turn back. Boettcher knows the last card, as do we here in the booth and you guys at home. It's a copy of Sarkin.
Yeah, the reason to play the land there is because he has Dig Through Time in his deck, so he wants to make sure he has enough mana to cast everything that he can potentially draw on the follow-up.
Rabblemaster are going to come in, deal 1 point of damage to Shields. Shields is down to 8, take a draw. It's a copy of Temple of Epiphany. Now the question is how to use this Sarkin. And does he want to lead with the scry first? I imagine he does, so he will. Take a look, get some more information. Take a look at the top card. It goes to the bottom. I think Sarkin might be forced to just kill the Rabble Master now. An attack for 4 doesn't seem all that likely.
It doesn't put Jared into any sort of lethal spot. It also Jared simply has the option next turn of using the Rebel Master plus the token already in play to just kill Sarkin. So I think he kind of has to do this. It lines up with a Banishing Light play of trying to just play a longer game and hoping to outdraw Jared, but Jared's hand's pretty loaded at this point.
And 2 copies of Stormbearer Dragon, a Hero's Downfall, and he just drew a land for the turn. It's a Bloodstained Mire he's going to put into play. But Jared is able to still continue to kind of push things here. He's going to take 1 to cast Stormbearer Dragon, but it doesn't matter as much now. Sarkin's going to bite the dust. 4 damage is going to come across. And now for Shiels, he draws a copy of Jeskai Charm. It's a little bit late to the party, and he's going to pack it up and pack it in. So Jared Boettcher is going to win game number 1 here over David Shiels. Jund aggro up a game here over Jeskai aggro.
And that is a good lesson there. It's hard to win games using your burn spells as removal spells if you aren't applying a consistent source of damage. You know, if you have creatures in play, if your Mana Spreaders are hitting, go ahead and use Lightning Strikes and Stokes to kill creatures. But if you're on the Lava Spike plan and you have to do things like keep Banishing Light on top of your deck to remove a Polukranos, it's really hard to win games that way.
To the sideboards we go, and we will take a look at David Shiels first.
3 copies of End Hostilities, 2 Disdainful Strokes, 2 Negates, a Keranos, God of the Storm, 2 copies of Erase, 2 Burmazes, a Suspension Field, a Deflecting Palm, and an Ash Cloud Phoenix. I think that he wants to convert into a control deck of sorts here. I think he's better suited here. Instead of playing the 1-for-1 removal spells, trying to go to End Hostilities and the counter spells. For the same reason I like Keranos in this matchup, because it's a good way to win the game once you've removed all of Jared's stuff.
On Boettcher's side, he's got 2 Bow Nylea, Whip of Erebos, a Hammer of Perforos, 3 Magma Spray, 2 Destructive Revelry, a Thoughtseize, 2 copies of Ashcloud Phoenix, a Harness by Force, and then 2 copies of Murderous Cut. So given that we believe that Jared's to try to be the aggressor in the matchup, I do like an additional copy of Thoughtseize. I just think Thoughtseize is good against David's deck, no matter if he's kind of mid-rangey or taking the control route. We saw it be very good in that first game. Murderous Cut is a card I wouldn't be surprised to see him bring in, but I think if David does adjust to being more of a control deck, maybe slide some of these creatures out of his deck, Cut could actually end up being a liability in a poor draw.
This is a tough thing about the matchup here, if you're in Jared's seat, is how exactly do you sideboard? You have something like Bow of Nylea, where if David is keeping the burn sort of aggressive nature of his deck intact, Bow can be really good. If he's swapping into a control deck, Bow is really bad. Whip of Erebos is almost the opposite. It's good against the control deck build, but not necessarily good against the burn you out strategy. Magma Spray, maybe it's really powerful against Seeker and Goblin Rabble Master. Maybe David's siding those cards out entirely. So there's a lot of guessing going on here. Murderous Cut, Ash Cloud Phoenix, all these cards can be good or bad depending exactly on how David sideboards.
So it makes it very, very difficult to sideboard against a just aggro deck because players can take different routes. You know, we saw Jadine a little bit earlier. She's very creature heavy, and then McLaren boarding into Dig Through Times and a very control heavy route as he's been known to do in the Pro Tour.
Yeah, it's challenging because David can basically leave his deck intact or completely swap his strategy. Yeah. And Jared has to guess to some degree how much of one is happening and how much of the other is happening.
Boettcher is number 8 on our Season 4 leaderboard. He'll be pretty close to, he's basically got locked up. Again, we don't want to announce anything before it is 100%, but he's about as close as you can be to being locking up a invite to the Players' Championship. That said, he's got a lot of tournaments left to play in this year, and we'll take a look at our 2014 schedule, the places that we have to go for the rest of the year. Again, we're going to be going to Minneapolis next week. We'll go to Oakland after that. I don't expect to see him in either one of those places, but you and I will be there taking care of those shows. And then, Columbus, there's potential for him to be there. Grand Prix, New Jersey, I know we'll see him there. Open Series in Richmond, and then we'll go to Atlanta as well. Then we'll close out in Portland, Seattle, and then Roanoke here for 2014. I expect to see Jared at that last one there in Roanoke.
Absolutely. I think he's very close, and if we assume that he's attending Seattle, we assume that, and probably Richmond is reasonable as well. That should be enough, but there is a risk, you never know how much people are going to be pushing and what exactly that point threshold is going to look like.
Well, it'll be fun to see as those events do unfold. Again, Minneapolis next weekend, Oakland after that, Columbus after that, and then all of a sudden there's a Grand Prix for us to cover as well. So a lot of magic here in the coming weeks.
Minneapolis will be fun too because I like it when the commentators get to battle a little bit.
Matthias Hunt.
Imagine Matthias will be battling.
He's already told me Jeskai Ascendancy and Sander.
He loves a combo deck.
Yeah. More than anyone I think I've ever met. honestly. There are a lot of players I know who like to play some combo, Andrew Shroud among them, but man, Matthias, just any format, high tide, scape shift.
He loves math puzzles.
Yeah.
And if you get to do a math puzzle with another person who's forced to sit there and watch how good you are at math, that's probably really fun, right?
Probably, yeah. It's probably a delight.
Imagine that you were good at basketball and someone had to follow you around all the time and watch you play. That's got to be what playing combo decks is like if you're good at math. Look at how smart I am.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
You're dead again.
Did it again.
This is awesome.
I figured it out. I solved the puzzle.
His love for scape shift is just, it just knows no bounds. I don't think I could hate scape shift anymore. I never draw it. So you know like the one-card combo decks where you just ramp up and then you draw like the thing and then you kill them?
Yes.
Be it like Scape Shift, Dragon Storm, or Tooth and Nail? I never draw the namesake card, so I've always hated those decks.
Okay.
It's irrational because, you know, you're going to draw it and you have ways to find it, but I just never, ever drew the card. Ever. So I just hate those decks.
So is that why you like Tron? Because you have like 20 looks at the pieces of your puzzle, basically?
Yeah. And it's just like relatively consistent.
Yeah.
Instead of just like, I hope I draw this scape shift. Like, you know, peer through depths, put 5 to the bottom, peer through depths, put 5 to the bottom again. All the scape shift from the bottom of my deck. It's infuriating.
Yep.
Let alone if it doesn't resolve.
Or you just miss land drops.
Yeah. It's infuriating. But some people like those style of decks, and some people definitely win with them. And Matthias falls in both of those camps.
Although that's surprising because it's not really that math-oriented. I would assume he was more of a Storm player.
Play some Storm. It sucks, too, because Tooth and Nail was, like, the best deck then. Or
Yeah.
one of the best decks. I just couldn't ever draw it. So I just didn't play it and then lost to it all the time.
You do know exactly how irrational this sounds, right?
Absolutely. 100%. I knew then that it was irrational.
Yep.
Looks like Shiels is going to take a mulligan here. It makes no sense.
If someone came up to you during your competitive heyday and said, I'm not playing Tooth and Nail in this tournament because I never draw the Tooth and Nail, you would have made fun of them endlessly.
Then and now.
Then and now for not just that event,
Yeah.
at every event forever.
Yes. I know how completely ridiculous this sounds, but when you go multiple tournaments without drawing Tooth and Nail, ever, you'll get on board.
My irrationality comes in 3-color draft formats, like the
Okay.
one we're in.
Okay.
Where anytime I even try to dip my toe into a third color, I'm just color screwed horribly in every single game. Well, I watch my opponent start on Swamp, Mountain, Plains just 100% of the time.
Your turn. A lot of that happened a lot of the time in Shards. Just the Forest, Nakadal, Plains, something like Steward of Valoron,
No.
Mountain, Woolly Fakdar. You're up.
Yeah, I was a big fan of red-black Onyx Goblet decks.
Ugh. You would.
Yep. Gobble, gobble.
That deck stunk.
Drink up.
It's a 3-1. The 3-1 Trampler for 2. You probably played a lot of that guy.
If I'm lucky.
Yeah, that Goblin.
If I was lucky enough to draft it.
Yeah. I think Goblin Death Raider. Looks like Shields going to take a mulligan down to 5 here. See if he can overcome this.
It's tough with burn decks to mulligan.
Yeah. Hands certainly did not come together here. Boettcher looks pretty confident with the 7 cards he has. The old Onyx Goblin, huh?
Oh, yeah.
You were that guy getting those 14th.
Well, I stopped getting them 14th at the local store once people realized what was going on. And the Gain Life Goblet became a higher pick as a result, too, because it's not good against the Black Goblet. It's a push, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, we called that card in my local play group. We called it, you know that song by The Fray, How to Save a Life?
I do
We
not.
called it How to Gain a Life.
Okay,
that's
sure.
That's what we called that one. It's Marble Chalice, I believe is the
Marble
name.
Chalice.
Yes. How to Gain a Life. You have to know that song. Everyone knows that terrible
Oh,
song.
yeah. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I do
Oh,
know
yeah.
now.
Yeah, that's what we used to call that in the local play group.
Now that you gave me a taste of the chorus off key, I do remember that one.
You didn't give me proper time to warm up.
Haven't you been talking for 7 hours
You didn't give me proper time to warm up. I don't appreciate that at all.
Fair enough. That song is really bad.
It's pretty bad, yeah. Flooded Strand. It's on my playlist. Here is a Land of War waste for Boettcher. Shields will sacrifice his Flooded Strand. Get himself an island.
Yeah, I would have been surprised if it wasn't.
If you want me to set, I can have that be the alarm music for tomorrow if you'd like.
Whatever you had on this morning was unacceptable, so whatever you want to change it to.
The Marble Chalice Anthem.
I would have preferred a funeral dirge than whatever you were playing this morning, so feel free to mix it up.
Shiels will draw. Looks like he picked up a copy of Bramaz. There's the Plains, the mighty Sunflower Plains. Boettcher.
Another A-pack joint.
Yeah, with an Herboard. Now here is the Death Dealer. He'll take 1 to cast it, so he's down to 19. Shields no red mana yet. The question is, does he have a second white mana, let alone a third land? It's a Flooded Strand. There's Bramaz. Now he's just hoping, all right, do you have an answer? Hopefully not. Fetch lands are interesting, right? Where they're super powerful, obviously. But we think of fetch lands in the context of searching up dual lands, be it in Modern or in Legacy. And heck, in Vintage, too. But when they're just searching up normal basics, they're merely good.
Yeah, they are okay mana fixers, but in low-power games or low-power formats, what's a better mana fixer, Flooded Strand or Battlefield Forge? Or Adakar Wastes or whatever?
Sure.
In your average standard or block format, the pain land, not the fetch land, is going to do better work mana fixing. It's only when dual lands get into the equation that they become really, really powerful.
Saw a Hero's Downfall take down the copy of Bramaz. Now, Shields did not have red mana a turn ago, but he's got it now. He also has a copy of Mantis Rider and Goblin Rabble Master in his hand, so now he's trying to figure out, okay, which one do I cast? How do I get busy on this board? Because the race is certainly on now.
With his hand being only creatures facing a Rakshasa, I think that I would play the Flyer, because I don't think either of his ground creatures provide a lot of utility.
There's the Reef. Here's the Rabble Master, going to take 1 to cast it. Goblin Token coming in sideways. Boettcher going to lose a little bit of life, down to 18. Don't have a great look at Boettcher's hand. You can see the Llanowar Waste there. The Death Dealer, he's going to draw a card. Let's see what he finds. Looks like he's boarded in the Bow of Nylea. Picked up a copy of Rabble Master of his own. Definitely some power in Jared's deck.
Oh yeah, the threat base is very good.
Yeah. I don't know if he can go toe-to-toe with Abzan mid-range. We'll probably find out at some point this weekend. But the creatures that he has in his deck are pretty powerful. Again, Rakshasa Death Dealer, Rabble Master, Pelucranos, Stormbreath Dragon, Heir of the Wilds, and Fanatic of Xenagos.
I suspect Heir of the Wilds is a nice threat against Abzan decks.
Yeah.
If you're able to trigger the ferociousness of it, then Courser can't block it, Caryatid can't block it, and it's trading with anything that it's trading with is a much better threat than itself.
Boettcher going to take 1 here. Pay himself another Death Dealer.
Actually takes 2, I believe. Oh no, never mind. He has the Urborg.
You'll get these Orborgs down.
Yep.
I believe in you. Oh, I'm a little surprised he didn't play a 3 last turn. The thought process here, right, is I can play the Death Dealer and I can just pump it. Or regenerate it, and whatever happens, happens. But now Dave can actually take a turn going over the top of him.
Well, I think that Jared's plan for this, because his hand's a little land heavy, is say, all right, I'm going to play a 2-mana spell here, leave 2 mana up, which shuts down the Rabble Master, and it means that really only a token's hitting me. The next turn, I can play a 3 with the 2 mana up, and kind of lock the Rabble Master out of doing very much. Now, with David playing a Mantis Rider, the game might become more of a pure race. Jared may have a little less time than he suspected.
Another Goblin Token into the red zone. Of course, Mantis Rider does have Vigilance. This game's getting a little bit interesting. Don't forget, Rebel Master doesn't have to attack. It's Goblins do. So he'll block 1, 4 damage is going to come across. Boettcher's going to go down to 13. He's got a pretty painful mana base out there, too.
Yes.
Looked like Shields wanted to play that Flooded Strand. He's going to. His last card in hand is actually Bramaz. So it makes things a little bit interesting.
Well, Jared's got the ground pretty well locked up here. So I don't think Bramaz adds a lot other than just kind of any creature is generically good here, helping him attack.
Might buy him enough time, like blocking and maybe gumming up the ground a little bit, that he can try to get some more work done in the air. Though
Yeah.
the Bow of Nylea does make things a little bit difficult. Wasn't sure if Boettcher was going to pour that in or how Shield was going to sideboard.
Well, Bow of Nylea is a lot of damage for him to cast right now.
Yeah, that's true.
This is one of the matchups where Jared's mana base, it's trying to cast things on time as much as possible. He's an aggressive deck, it makes sense, but it is costing him here.
Fanatic. It's going to take 1 to play that, too. And we'll see if Shields wants to play Tribute and how he wants to handle this thing.
Well, giving Jared a 4-4 haster this turn is significant. I actually think he may want to make this thing a 4-4.
Just not let it attack.
Yeah.
Might be right.
Taking 4 in this spot. And you still have to take 3 the next turn. You know, as David's board is currently constructed, it's not like he invalidates the Fnatic the following turn.
I can say with absolute certainty, excuse me, this is the best I've ever seen Fnatic as Xenagos be. But right now, it's very good.
This is the closest I've ever seen the tribute trigger be.
Yeah.
Usually it's very obvious which one you're supposed to be doing. This is pretty complicated, but I think that Shiels is supposed to give him a +1/+1 counter here.
Try to beat it down the road.
Yeah.
No, down the road's not very far.
There's not that much difference between a 3-3 and a 4-4 on this board. So the question then is, do you want to get hit this turn or not? The answer has to be no.
Yeah. So it's a 4-4 moving forward, which means he's not giving the beatdowns this turn. So now Boettcher's going to do a little bit of math. So, okay, you're going to get a Goblin. Maybe you get another Goblin. What happens if you have another Mantis Rider? What happens if the card in your hand is Sarkin and you need a red source? That's a question to ask, too.
No, I think I like this double attack here from Jared because the Fnatic is already playing the role on defense that one of the Death Dealers was doing the previous turn.
He's a little unsure. He turned them both sideways pretty quickly, I guess. Okay. And I like this attack, too. I think the question now is, you know, if you're Shiels, do you do any blocking? And if so, how do you do it, right? Because you can just say, Mantis Rider in front of one, Rabble Master in front of the other. I guess I lose my Mantis Rider, and then my Rebel Master trades with your Death Dealer, but then I don't have anything.
Well, the problem is that Jared can also do the reverse, where I guess he's always going to kill your Mantis Rider.
I think so.
In trade. Yeah, I don't think David can really run a block here.
I think what's kind of comforting about that, though, if you're Shiels, is, you know, as he kind of goes to the iterations of what happens if he blocks, I think there's a world where Jared can't pump. It's just get through 4 points of damage, push you down to 8.
Yeah.
I don't think Shiels is going to block.
No, there's not a lot to be gained by blocking. Also, you just don't want Jared to trade here. Dave's on 5 cards, Jared's on 7. Trading 1 for 1 has to favor Jared, and David is really leaning on both of these creatures to give him a shot to win this game, so I think he's just got to take his lumps here.
Well, Jared is going to pump, so he's getting super aggro. Shields down to 6. Jared has to take 1 for the pump. Shields going to draw a card. It's a Jeskai Charm. Okay. If he puts the Fnatic back on top of the deck, it's an attack for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Comes up a little bit short.
Well, the thing is, what he can do this turn is just send the 2 tokens plus the Mantis Rider. That's 4 points of damage down to 7. The Mantis Rider is 3 points of damage next turn, we assume, knocks him down to 4, and then the Jeskai Charm is lethal. The issue now is that both of these Death Dealers are lethal the next turn. So David does have to run a double chump block, but he can do that with the Bramaz that's in his hand plus his Rabble Master that's on defense.
Okay. Aha! Everybody's getting in the club. Yep, there's your block.
Ooh, are we lifelinking?
We might be lifelinking. Yes. So he's going to take 1. Go down to 5, but we're lifelinking, so he's going to... Rabble Master's going to become a 5-power creature. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He's going to gain 13 life. He's going to go up to 18. And he's also going to deal more damage. He's going to deal 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's just going to go down to 3, which means the burn spells are alive now, too.
Yep. So he's got a lot of time, and most of his burn spells are lethal.
So it's the hidden mode on Jeskai Charm, which is playing a huge role in this game. We think of it as, I'll put a creature on top of your deck, kind of the time ebb, or I'll deal 4 damage. +1/+1 and lifelink makes it maybe the best draw you could have had this turn.
Yeah, and I was thinking, well, is he losing too much damage doing it this way? But no, he's not. He loses 1 point of damage relative to just playing the Jeskai Charm as 4 damage, and saves. I mean, he has so many more draw steps now,
yeah,
and the Mantis Rider is still lethal.
Jeez. The Mantis Rider still being lethal. The fact that Boettcher, with his mana, the Mana Confluence, and the 2 copies of Llanowar Waste as well, Jeskai Charm was an insane draw. Yeah, and now he's beat. Wow, unbelievable. Dave Shiels is going to win this game over Jared Boettcher, and they're going to head to a 3rd one now. Shiels mulligan to 5 that game, but some timely draws, especially that Jeskai Charm, evens it up.
When you sort of evaluate these burn decks, they mulligan to 5. Normally, if they're winning that game, it involves some sort of sweeper that someone was anticipating, an unchecked Planeswalker. Dave Shiels was able to win that game on 5 cards with kind of just his core strategy. And a lot of that has to do with Jared's lands.
Oh, the first 2 were pretty good. The third one, I hope, is as well. We'll take a look at our 2015 Invitational schedule here. We did announce this at the Season 3 Invitational in New Jersey. It's going to look very familiar to you guys at home. Pretty much the same outside of the first one.
Yep, we have our Mid-South Invitational moving from Charlotte to Richmond. And then the same venues, Columbus, New Jersey, and Seattle, I believe actually in the same order as well.
Same order. Dates are probably a little bit different.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I imagine we will be at the Origin Game Fair yet again for Columbus. We will see a fire alarm go off in New Jersey. And then Seattle will probably rain because it's December. That's okay.
Because it's any day of the year. So
Easy. Don't let the secret. Actually, no. You're supposed to keep. Yes, it rains all the time. Right. Yes.
It's not actually true, right?
It rains all the time. No, don't move there. It's awful. All it does is rain. There are puddles everywhere. It is the absolute worst.
Maybe we could run some tradesies because San Diego could use a little bit of rain.
Well, see,
as we're in year 3 of a crippling drought.
Are you actually?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's okay.
That must be rough.
No, it actually weirdly somehow doesn't impact my day-to-day life at all. But apparently there's some really bad drought.
Either way, that's where we will be for 2015 for all of our invitationals. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. I did not know there's a drought taking place.
Yep.
Yes, that is tough. It's still always just 70 and a perfect breeze every day, though, right?
We had something resembling a real summer this year.
So like 75?
We got into the 80s, I think.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oofa. Do you guys have air conditioning in San Diego?
Yeah.
That sounds like a strange question, but in Seattle there is not air conditioning.
No, we do have it.
Okay. So when it gets to 85 or heaven forbid 90 in Seattle, that's game. Everyone loses.
It's really surprising. Is there a citywide ban on them or something? Or
it doesn't ever get that warm, so it's unnecessary. So it only happens in the summer 3 days max. So when that actually happens, everyone runs to the store and buys fans. So the year before I moved to Seattle, there was a heat wave, which means it got to like 92 for a week. And, all of the local stores were sold out of fans for 5 days.
It sounds like really bad planning.
It's absurd. It's completely absurd. Yeah. So I didn't know if there were air conditioning, like if apartments and places in San Diego came with air conditioning units.
They do. Because it's not the 1800s. So we have air conditioning.
Yeah. You just lose the game in Seattle for those 4 days or whatever, where it's just sticky and hot. That's why I like the rain.
Sure.
I don't mind it one bit. And that means I'm not going to give any to you. It's just going to stay where it is. Get your own rain. Yeah, I'm being told, don't let the secret out. Yeah, the water never stops falling in Seattle. It's just, think of those Florida rainstorms that you see in movies. That's what it's like all the time.
Yeah.
It's always dark, too, when it rains. It's just always dark and stormy and lightning. You don't want to be there. That was a pretty impressive win by Dave in that game.
That was. To do it on 5 cards with the core strategy of the deck is really impressive.
Yeah.
A lot to be said for Mana Spriter, that's for sure.
And Jeskai Charm. Jeez, that card is a delight. I don't know if it's better than Obzon Charm. I think those are the 2 best. Boy, is it close.
They're apples and oranges, but...
Which charm's bringing it up the rear? Mardu?
In standard level play, my guess would be Mardu.
Yeah?
It's probably the worst of them.
All right. Poor Mardu Charm.
Because something's got to be the worst,
Teamer Charm seems like it's okay.
Every cycle's got to have their Gruul Charm.
I played Gruul Charm in a constructed tournament and made the top.
Yeah, I know it got played, but wow, that card.
It was bad. Yeah, it was bad.
Also, gain control of a permanent you own is sort of a baffling text box. It's like, what do you mean I already own it? It's already mine.
Fire off that brand.
Yep. I did use it in a draft game.
To bring back what?
Act of treason. Act of treason.
Oh, wow, look at you.
Oh, yeah. Because someone's a little short of lethal now. So I'll untap and kill you.
Here is a Temple of Abandon to start things off here for Boettcher. Both players look to have kept their 7.
I think David may have kept a hand without red mana. Looks like Flooded Strand Island and some cards.
A little risky. Wooded Foothills here. Oh, he peels it right off the top. The Temple.
Don't shuffle the cards around your hand like you didn't just draw that, David. You would have played on turn 1 if it was in your opening hand.
No way. Shuffle them around. Conceal the info.
No one's buying it.
Hand is certainly online now. Leave that card on top before passing the turn back over to Boettcher. See what Boettcher picks up for his third turn. Heir of the Wilds. There's Urborg, going to sacrifice this. Perhaps it's time for a Fanatic of Xenagos. We'll see. Urborg is nice in this deck.
It is. Jared needs it just to not take so much damage off of his lands, if nothing else. Although this is a pretty stable opening. I mean, he's on red, green, and black mana, none of it dealing damage to him, so it's a big deal.
It's a lot different than the last game. Now Dave's got to decide. Fnatic putting him to the test right away. Gotta say, this card has actually impressed me when I've watched Jared play.
There's a lot of cards. Format shifts, power level gets a little bit lower, and certain cards that were a little short now have their chance to shine.
Shield's gonna take 4. Looks like he picked up a copy of Dig Through Time for the turn. He's gonna sacrifice the Flooded Strand. Mantis Rider's gonna come in. Boettcher's gonna take 3, work his way down to 16. There's a Plains. We'll see if this Mantis Rider makes it through the turn. Does it ever get the opportunity to block this Fnatic of Xenagos?
I don't think he's looking to block. I think this is a mana efficiency play here from David. He has Lightning Strike in hand.
Okay.
So I think he's trying to set up a race where when it's convenient, when he has mana left over, maybe he Lightning Strikes the Fnatic, or maybe he just saves it for Jared's head.
All right. Saw Boettcher pick up a copy of Pelucranos for the turn. There's a Swamp. Got plenty of black mana, though. See Bo and Ilea in the grip, too.
Bo's a little slow.
Didn't have time to get it online last game.
Although a lot of that was the consequence of his lands.
Yeah, this is true. There's the attack. Shiels very quickly takes it.
Mantis Rider is not looking to trade. Bigger dreams.
Pelucranos. Shields gonna draw. Temple of Triumph is what he's found.
And Temple is a huge deal here because Dave definitely needs a land and a second source of red mana. This opens up a line where we can play Mantis Rider again, hit again, hope that Jared can't kill him or remove the Mantis Riders, and then the burn spells clean things up.
It's risky.
Well, trading is risky for different reasons.
Just gonna attack here for 3. Perhaps the big plan is to just Jeskai Charm the Pelucranos back on top of the deck, move forward that way. Yep. So he says, get that out of my office. Boettcher just puts it back on top of his deck very quickly and draws a card, so nothing changes here for Jared, looking at the same cards. There's the attack. Shield's going to take it again, consistent with what we've seen earlier. But will Boettcher be consistent with what we saw last turn and play Pelucranos again? The answer is yes. Back to Shields we go. Shields going to draw, copy a Suspension Field. Nice clean answer to Pelucranos.
And you can see why he sequenced this like this after he scryed with that Temple here. Now he just gets to play pure cleanup here.
He's finally in 2 spells to turn territory, which is a big deal. Start with the Mantis Rider. Boettcher's down to 10. I imagine we're going to see Suspension Field here. That'll take care of Pelucranos. Kick it back over to Boettcher. He's got a Lightning Strike in reserve if he needs to cast it.
And this Bo's still stranded.
Yep.
Has not done a thing in 2 games.
Every time I watch this Jeskai aggro deck, it always impresses me. Really good deck.
I think it is good. Though I think a lot of that has to just do with there's a shocking number of games where Manus Rider goes unchecked somehow.
Yeah, it's strange. It's strange. You would think it'd be easier just to kill a 3/3 creature. But if this thing gets in 2 hits, heaven forbid 3, I find it very difficult for the opponent to win.
When you look at Jared's list here, he has Stoke the Flames and Hero's Downfall game 1, trying to maximize power. 3 Magma Sprays in the board, trying to maximize speed, but not really great answers to Manus Rider. And now this is happening.
Yep, another Fnatic. Do wonder if Dave's ever going to shift gears. Maybe block with the Mantis Rider. Again, we haven't seen him do it earlier, so it would be I guess it would be strange to see him shift gears into playing more of a defensive role to try to just keep my life total high enough and then kill you with burn spells. But
No, I think he's pretty well committed to racing here. The question is, can he actually win the game? If he has a Lightning Strike in hand and a 4 damage spell, he has the game if Jared has no follow-up. But I don't think he does.
The one thing he's missing is the 4 damage spell. So I'll be interested to see if he just says, okay, I'll take this and I'll go to 6, or if he just says, okay, I'll strike this. And it looks like he says, I'm going to go to 6. He's going to jet him. So Boettcher's going to go down to 8, and Shiels is going to get some more information here. So hit 1 and 2 Disdainful Stroke and the Stoke. But Stoke isn't it. It leaves him a point short right now.
Though, Stroke is quite the insurance policy here.
Yeah, I mean, if Shiels can make it out of the next turn, he's fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know if he can make it out of the next turn. That's the big issue here. What he needs is a 5th mana source.
Yeah.
He doesn't have one, and we see the 2 cards he's looking at. Disdainful Stroke is interesting. It saves him a little bit, but it looks like he's going to put these both to the bottom. He's going to untap. He's definitely looking for the 5th land. If he finds the 5th land, it's over.
Yeah.
There it is. Mantis Rider gets you for 6 in the air. Lightning Strike your face. You see Shields going to tap all the mana. He's got everything he needs. 3, 6, and 9. Boettcher going to look at his hand, and he knows, unfortunately, that it's not going to work. Dave Shields going to win this match over Jared Boettcher. 2 games to 1, and for Jeskai Aggro, moving on to 5-1.
And after a mulligan to 5, game 2, and kind of a tight game in game 3 there. And yeah, Jared just showing a hand here of just double red cards, especially Starkin that could have answered a Mantis Rider, but you know, so it goes.